Ladies and gentlemen, we have breaking news from Ottawa and the National Capital Region. There has been another floor crosser, but this time not from the Conservatives. Let's take a look.
NDP MP Laurie Idlout crossing the floor to Liberals, party leader says. New Democratic Party MP Laurie Idlout is crossing the floor to join the Liberals, NDP leader Don Davies said Tuesday evening. Quote, "We're very disappointed that Laurie Idlout has decided to join the Liberal caucus," end quote, Davies said. Quote, "The position of the New Democrats on floor crossing is long-standing and clear. We believe that when someone rejects the decision of their electors and wants to join another party, they should put that decision to their voters," end quote. The move gets Prime Minister Mark Carney closer to a sought-after majority in the House of Commons. It drops the NDP down to just 6 MPs and brings the Liberals up to 170 seats. CBC News has reached out to Idlout and the Prime Minister's office for comment. Idlout has represented the Nunavut in the House of Commons since 2021.
So the interesting thing about this article is they actually didn't bother to include the entire statement from Don Davies, so here's the piece they missed. In a democracy, something as important as the choice of party representation in Parliament must always remain with our constituents. We believe that should happen here. Now, that statement was sent to us by one of our sources inside of Parliament, and it's just interesting that CBC would just conveniently forget to put that in there because it's questioning democracy. Can't have that happen within the CBC now, can we? And it's kind of ironic that they published this story after earlier Travis Donraj testifies in Parliament talking about corruption within the CBC, talking about the fact that there was concerns about the Prime Minister's office influencing editorial decisions in CBC and influencing messaging in the CBC. But here we are. So there's no use crying about this. Let's talk about what this means.
So what this means, according to the article, is that the Liberals have 170 seats. Well, technically that's true because 3 of them are vacant. The Liberals are expected to win at least 2 in the by-election on April the 13th. So that would put them at a majority. Brian, what does this mean for Canadians?
Well, what this means is what will most likely happen is assuming, even if, but assuming the Liberals actually win all these 3 by-elections, that will put them at 173 seats. That will put them at technically a 2-seat majority because they only need 172. But if they had 172 seats, the Speaker would have to break the tie on all of the votes that ended up being tied at 171. 171 from the opposition, 171 from the Liberals, and then the Speaker would break the tie. So, thanks to Laurie Idlout crossing the floor, this would potentially make that not necessary because that gives the 172 plus the Speaker, so they wouldn't need the Speaker to break the tie anymore. Now, what this also means, and this is the more concerning part for Canadians, is that after these by-elections, what Mark Carney will almost certainly do is he will prorogue Parliament for 1 day. Why will he do that? What's the point of that?
Well, it's to reset the agenda.
It's to reset the agenda, but what it also does, folks, is it resets every single committee. And it resets the membership of every single committee. Now that the Liberals would actually have a majority, they want a majority in committee as well. So resetting Parliament gets them the opportunity to now say, all right, the composition of committees now needs to change and it needs to reflect what the composition of government actually is. So the Liberals would have a majority in every single committee, and they would be able to push through virtually everything in every single committee.
Unamended, if desired.
Unamended, if desired.
Now, this all sounds pretty scary, and quite frankly, it is. But it's not the end for Canadians. We still have a completely separate House, the Senate, that we can work with our senators to let them know how we feel about certain bills. And if you have a conservative MP, don't forget about them, because they will still be fighting in the House of Commons for you. But the Senate is going to be the key house in this case, because they will be able to make recommendations for amendments, and if absolutely necessary, they will be able to kill bills too. Pardon me, it's a little bit late.
Well, and here's the other thing. This is what we call a fragile majority, and we've been asked this question many times. What happens if they win all these by-elections? What happens if they get to 172, 173? I'm less concerned about a 172, 173 majority than I would be at a 190 majority. 190 majority, you can pretty much take it to the bank that the Liberals would be able to push through everything and we would be locked into a government for 4 years. In this case, it's a fragile majority. People can be sick, people can be out of the country, people can be unavailable for confidence votes, and we've seen it happen many, many times in the past. And Mark Carney is going to have this majority, but there's a lot of Canadians, people who voted Liberal included, that are not happy with Mark Carney obtaining majority through this fashion.
Right, because Canadians did not vote for a majority government. Canadians voted for a minority Liberal government with the help of the Conservatives, Bloc, and NDP to pass legislation that is well-rounded and good for all Canadians. So if Mark Carney gets a majority through these backhanded tactics, which it looks like he will, then Canadians who even voted Liberal are going to be like, that's not the mandate we gave you. Why are you doing that? Why can't you work with the other parties to try to do something that is good for all Canadians? Why are you upsetting our democracy in this way? So, you know what? Maybe he gets an extra 3 years out of this, but it is not going to end well for the Liberals. I don't want to say this is exactly what happened in Ontario when they swapped out what was his name? Dalton McGuinty for Kathleen Wynne. But she had a majority, she did her 4 years, and then the party got decimated. So that is my prediction for this government. So Canadians, get in contact with your senators. It's not like an MP where you only have one. You have multiple senators for your provincial region. So let them know who you are and that, you know, I'm going to be in contact with you somewhat frequently to discuss the things that are concerning to me. Be polite, be respectful, and that's the house we have to focus our attention on.
And here's the other thing. Don't be afraid to write letters to the Prime Minister's office, to Mark Carney, and to any of the other Liberals saying, listen, you want a majority government, you take it to an election. You want a majority government, go and get the proper mandate. It's not up to you to be doing backroom deals and bribing all of these MPs to come over to your party. You didn't win that seat in the last election. So therefore, you don't deserve to have these MPs serving in your party. That's against the principle of democracy in this country. Doesn't matter if it's technically within the rules. That is not within the spirit of democracy, and anyone that is trying to argue against that is not arguing with you in good faith. So this is the time for Canadians to get more active than ever before in politics and let the government know that you do not support this, whether you voted Liberal last time or not. If the shoe was on the other foot, we would still be having the same conversation. We wouldn't be agreeing if the Conservatives tried to do this as well.
No, because as you said, it goes against the spirit of democracy. And please remember, when you are contacting parliamentary officials, no cursing, no name calling, and no threats, but let them know exactly how you feel about this. I don't think this is right, and I don't approve.
So, ladies and gentlemen, take a minute. You can take a minute to get angry, take a minute to be upset, but after that minute's over, take your breath and let's get to work.